All right, we move on to a virtual discussion on Proposition 118, paid family and medical leave. Speaking for Proposition 118, Hunter Railey with Colorado Families First, and against is Diane Schwenke, Not Now, Colorado. We'll begin with Mr. Railey. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. You have 90 seconds for an opening statement.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. My name is Hunter Railey. Today, I'd like to talk with you about why passing paid family and medical leave this November is crucial for Colorado. I'm representing Colorado Families First, the issue committee in support of the paid family leave initiative. We believe this pro-family, pro-business policy will be good for Colorado's workers and employees alike. Right now, 81% of all workers in Colorado work for an employer who does not provide them with paid leave. These are often workers in low-wage industries and who are often living paycheck to paycheck. Right now, there are far too many stories of hardworking Coloradans choosing between their livelihoods and their families. As it stands, Coloradans are forced to choose between keeping the lights on or being with a family member when they fall ill, and any number of other issues that come up in the course of regular life. More than 2.6 million Coloradans would benefit under this policy. While the economy continues to be hurt by COVID, we want to look forward to recovery and how small businesses can be competitive with their larger business peers. This policy provides a low-cost option to businesses of all sizes, giving their employees access to a benefit shown to improve employee retention and job satisfaction. With the success of small businesses in mind, this policy exempts employers with fewer than 10 workers from paying premiums while still giving workers access to the benefit. Small businesses are like a family, and employers want to do what's right by their employees. This policy gives them a way to invest in their employees without breaking the bank. As I said, this policy will benefit over 2.6 million hardworking Coloradans with the ability to put their families first without risking their income and jobs. It provides up to 12 weeks of paid leave with up to an additional 4 weeks for qualifying childbirth or complications during pregnancy. On average, it will cost a Colorado worker less than $5 a week, less than many other employer provided benefits like healthcare. The 0.9% premium can be split 50-50 between employee and employer, or the employer can elect to pay a larger portion of the premium. Thank you.
Yep. Do they have a visual time? Okay, all right. I apologize for that. Diane Schwenke, Not Now, Colorado. You have 90 seconds.
Thank you. Can I please ask the host to let my video feed continue? You stopped it, so I cannot start it. Thank you. So I want to thank you all for the opportunity to discuss this tonight. And I want to talk about what this is about. And it's not about paid family leave or paid leave for our employees, because when you actually conduct a survey and you broaden the definition of leave offered to individuals, according to the Mountain States Employers Council, we have a lot of small businesses and businesses of all sizes that offer leave to their employees. What this is about is a model that's not gonna work. And that's what I wanna talk about. This particular proposition, this answer to the problem creates a $1.3 billion bureaucracy that will employ up to 200 people. And if the proponent's modeling is off by even a less than 1% in terms of who utilizes it, it's bankrupt by year 2. If just 6.2% of the employees in the state in any one year use not 12 weeks or 16 weeks, but 9.5 weeks, again, they go bankrupt. They go belly up. The money isn't there. You can't have a Cadillac program with a scooter budget. And so our problem with this is what happens then? What happens to our employees who have been paying into this fund? What happens to our employers? What happens to our General Assembly who has to figure out where the money is going to come from? So that's why we're opposed to Proposition 118.
All right, first question, we'll start with Diane. How can employees who are unexpectedly faced with a critical challenge at home, like a family member needing care or attention, make ends meet?
So I'm going to tell you that I really think the employees and the employers in the state have good relationships. And I'll use just one example. I'm a very small nonprofit, and I had an employee who contracted cancer last year, a relatively new employee. And we sat down and we worked together. I advanced more leave to her, and we figured out an arrangement where when she was not having chemo treatment and she was feeling comfortable, that she could still continue to do part of her work. That kind of a scenario happens every single day across this state right now. So there is that employer-employee relationship that's going on, and the modifications to what needs to take place. We love our employees. I mean, frankly, I can't operate this Chamber of Commerce without employees, and most of my businesses are in the same boat. And it is the small business organizations across the state that are opposed to this proposition. So my 900 members, and I'm sure a lot of people in the that are members of the Glenwood Springs Chamber as well, do not see this as a benefit or something that's good for small business.
Okay, remember, it's a 60-second, or I think you were right on time. Mr. Railey, your response.
Sharon, can you start my video? I think pointedly to this, the statement that was given about employers utilizing flexibility to work with their employees to provide some aspect of leave. Yes, there are many employers across the state that do this. However, this program would create a standard and a payment mechanism where that is possible for everyone to do that. So we are not arguing that there aren't good employers out there that are willing to work with their employees. We are simply saying that data, research, and a state task force that was convened last year demonstrates that this is not widespread and that this is not the norm. Simply stated, we would like to encourage more of this flexibility. We would like to encourage more people utilizing this benefit. We're simply offering a effective way to pay for that, to provide it affordably to the state's smallest firms.
Diane, your response or rebuttal?
So I would just say this, and that is that when we take a look at employees today who get leave, it's 100% paid by the employer, or those arrangements are worked out with the employer. The employees, and particularly some of our lowest paid employees, are going to be paying for this benefit, and it may not be there when they need it, because again, when you take a look at the modeling and the utilization rate, there's strong evidence that there's not sufficient money coming out of the employees' paychecks and the employer to actually fund this program.
Next question. Hunter, Proposition 118 would allow up to 12 weeks of paid leave. During this pandemic, we've seen what has happened to our business community. How does an employer survive for 3 months without an employee?
That's a fantastic question. So first of all, with respect to the pandemic and the ongoing challenges right now, it's important to note that this program does not go into effect until 2023. So we are several years out. This simply authorizes the state to begin creating the infrastructure to put this in place. On the question of what does an employer do when an employee is out for 3 months, really, again, this provides the flexibility this employer would need. So traditionally right now, if an employee leaves for 3 months and you cannot or will not replace that employee, that employment is terminated. With the wage replacement that is offered through the insurance program, the employer is saving money and has an opportunity to either bring in temporary workers, rework work schedules, do any number of different strategies to ensure that work is not left unattended to. Thank you.
Diane, your response?
Sure. Again, the Common Sense Institute actually did quite a bit of research around what happens. And it is true that particularly for the smallest businesses, they're going to see their costs increase because they are going to have to hire a temporary worker, or they are going to have to pay overtime to their existing workforce. So it's not for the employers with less than 10 employees, they're not paying the premium, but they still have absolutely costs associated with the work that needs to be done in order for them to continue to be in business. And that is just something that is real. So in terms of how that impacts our businesses, which are very fragile, and I'm glad that we all think 2023, everything's going to be fine and dandy. That's not what the last recession showed. I think this is a real dangerous area in which to take a look at imposing this on even the smallest of our employers. The work has to get done.
Hunter, your rebuttal.
Thank you. What we just heard here is effectively acknowledgement of what I was arguing, that anytime an employee leaves for a short period as a result of leave, a cost is incurred by the employer. We're offering a wage replacement system that takes some of that cost burden off. But without this program, that employee would be effectively terminated in those situations. And at that point, you are leaving that employee at a very vulnerable position during their life to effectively fend for themselves without wages.
Next question, we begin with Diane. According to language in the proposition, the average Colorado worker would pay less than $4 per week to fund this. So what's wrong with that?
So what's wrong with that is, I'll go back to my opening statement. This is a Cadillac benefit. No other state currently offers 12 and up to 16 weeks of paid time off. And you don't get something for nothing. So that's why when you take a look at the calculations and the modeling, the problem with this is the fact that that benefit may not be there for the employees. If even the calculations are off just slightly, by year 2, this program will be out of money. So that's a real problem. And in addition to that, currently, there are a lot of employees in this state who don't pay even $4 a week to be able to have paid time off. And they're now going to have to actually be paying, and so will the employer. And that's going to actually cause, it's kind of it's not this, if you have a great plan, you can keep it mentality that we've heard before and promised.
Hunter, your response.
There were two pieces there. One, and I'll address the first with the solvency of the plan. Again, last year, the state convened a bipartisan task force that included members of the Colorado Chamber of Commerce, labor advocates, ski resorts, and the insurance industry to study this issue in depth. What they concluded was effectively the plan that voters are going to see on the ballot before them was the best available option for funding and maintaining a stable program. The report that is being referenced here that claims the program will go insolvent is not founded on solid actuarial analysis. Additionally, to the point that many employers are already paying for this program, again, the data does not bear that out. 80% of employees in the state of Colorado are not currently offered a plan through their employer.
Diane, your rebuttal?
I was trying to remember if I started this time. So my rebuttal to this is that I would urge people to look at the Common Sense Institute report. It is under third-party evaluation. The task force that was convened was not unanimous in its recommendations. And even the state of California did not start with a leave program at 12 to 16 weeks. They started at 6 weeks. And the state of Washington saw 3 months worth of claims in their first 3 weeks. So when you take a look at the experience even of other states, we see some real issues and problems. And so it's not actuarially sound. We've got competing data to show that.
Final question, we'll start with Hunter. Critics say Proposition 18 will mean $1.3 billion in new taxes. It's a great deal of money. Now, considering the economic crisis we're in as a state and a country, how do you justify that?
First, I'll start with, again, this is not a tax. This is a state enterprise that is being set up with the specific purpose of constructing a social insurance program to provide a discrete benefit to employees and employers who contribute into that premium pool. At the cost of less than $5 a week, we think that's justifiable. The benefit employers and employees gain by having access to a paid family and medical leave program has shown in every state that currently has operated, save for Washington, who just rolled out their program, to improve retention, improve labor participation, and to improve economic well-being for the families that benefit from that. We think the cost is low enough. We think that on balance, the cost justifies the benefit.
Your response, Diane.
So let me point out a couple of things. As you start at the 0.09%, the director of this new bureaucracy that could employ up to 200 new state workers has the authority to actually raise that to 1.2. So there's a recognition, even on the part of proponents, that there is maybe not enough money to make this thing work from the outset. And in addition to that, $40 million that will go to new software. Even in the state of California, there was actually an existing state agency that could manage the program. We will be starting from scratch. And when you start from scratch, you know that you're going to have a lot more dollars that are going to be going to overhead, training, setting up the department. And so, no, we don't think you can justify the $1.3 billion creation of this sort of a bureaucracy.
Hunter, your rebuttal.
Sure. So the startup costs of the program are paid for through bonding, not by the $1.3 billion program. I will also add that no state in the country has increased their premiums as a result of going insolvent. Premiums are increased as a result of expanding the program. So that's why states have done that. Finally, I will add that the one area the task force recommendation was confident around was that this should be a public social insurance program. That was voted on unanimously. The task force was confident in it, and so are we.
All right. We move to our closing remarks. Diane, 90 seconds.
So let me just kind of sum up where we see some major problems with Proposition 118. And I want to start once again by saying we have employers across this state that do provide leave. We have no problem with a paid family medical leave program as long as it's going to actually be there to serve our employees. And Proposition 118 is so poorly written. And actually, again, as I said at the very beginning, you don't get something for nothing. And Hunter just alluded to the fact that you will see premiums rise if we see the kind of utilization rates that, frankly, we have seen in other states. And Proposition 118, make no mistake, is a brand new family medical leave program in terms of how rich that benefit is and how many weeks of paid leave that you get. So the reality is that we are going to see a program that's going to put an effective tax on employees and employers, and that may not be there to support them when they need it, and create a huge state bureaucracy with an appointed official who has the ability to raise the tax at least a little bit. And at the end of the day, I'm saying it again, in year 2, the program could be bankrupt. In year 2, not year 5, not year 10. So let's go back to the table. Let's take it back to the legislature. This is where a complex issue like this should be actually hammered out and worked out. And it came to the ballot because moderate Democrats really saw what was being proposed as not feasible and had problems with it. So that's why you're being asked to vote on it. Let's send it back to the legislature. Our governor, who is a firm believer and proponent of paid family medical leave, has not endorsed Proposition 118. He's also a business person. And I am proud that my organization, along with others like the Colorado Women's Chamber of Commerce, have gone on record as opposing Proposition 118.
Hunter, your closing remarks.
Thank you. This is an issue that has been debated over 6 years at the legislature. We have looked at every collectively every single angle, possible configuration, and still we have seen opposition to this. The task force that was convened last year brought experts from across all sectors in Colorado, as well as a number of expert reports and in detailed actuarial analysis. The findings of that, which are going to be on the ballot in November, demonstrate a solvent program that was in many respects agreed upon unanimously by everyone at that table. And the reason this did not go through the legislature, frankly, was because the legislative session was broken up due to a public health crisis that has reinforced the need to provide safety net options to employers and their employees. Now is the most clear time to begin building for the future and to begin thinking about what the next crisis might look like and what our families and businesses might need. With that, I thank you for having me, and I appreciate the questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for participating, Hunter and Diane. I appreciate your time.